appreciate your support. And I want you to spread the word that GPS is back on the air here on Global 99.5 FM. Let everybody know that the truth has a new home, and that new home is Global 99.5 FM. So, we are talking about Grand Bahama today. Today, Grand Bahama is all about you. Um, you know, Grand Bahama, we have a saying in the Bahamas, man, you can't catch a break. It seems Grand Bahama has been going through so much over the last several years that you're wondering, like, what's going on, man? They can't catch a break. A lot of people are focusing on what took place as a result of Dorian and obviously the pandemic, which has affected us all. But unfortunately for Grand Bahama, their woes began long before Dorian and obviously long before the pandemic. And so, administration after administration, they come in with all these wonderful promises about what they're going to do to get Grand Bahama back on its feet. And everybody, has all this hope and that, it's going to work out the way they say it's going to work out. And then at the end of the day, we see where a lot of those promises go unfulfilled. And I'm not saying that it has not been for a lack of trying. I don't want to give that impression at all, because I know that successive administrations have, tried to make a difference in Grand Bahama, but it just seems that nothing has come to fruition. Nothing has worked. And so we are going to talk today about what will it take to get Grand Bahama back on its feet. That is what we're going to be talking about today. And especially all of our listeners in Grand Bahama, I want to invite you to be a part of this conversation today, because obviously you are, impacted the most out of this. And we would love to hear from you, to hear what you think needs to be done to fix the problem. So that's what we're going to be talking about on the show today. And the numbers to call are 326-0271, 326-0271, or 326-0272, 326-0272. And of course, you can WhatsApp us at 824-9952. 824-9952 is the number by which you can reach us via WhatsApp. And so the person who is going to be my guest today is no stranger to any of us, whether we are here in New Providence or in Grand Bahama. And, we've been hearing him talk for years now about what needs to be done to fix the problems in our country. And, when he first started making his rounds on the various, when he first started making his rounds on the various talk shows, a lot of people listen to him and say, oh, this man is just off his rocker. He always talking foolishness. He always coming from left field, all this good stuff. But yet, more times than not, he is right on the money with his analysis. Right on the money. So we are going to be talking today to a gentleman who has some very direct and poignant views on what it's going to take to get Grand Bahama back on its feet. And producer, you have to tell me whether or not he is there, because I have yet to get on with my struggly laptop. So he's there? He's not there. Okay, he told me he's there. So let me WhatsApp and tell him. Okay. He told me to send it to him at some other number that I don't have for him. So let me just send him the link real quick to this new number, so we can quickly get him into the broadcast. Okay, let me do that real quick. Switch number on me and tell me. Okay, I just sent him the link to get into the broadcast. I am speaking of none other than C. Allen Johnson, and known in many circles as the critical thinker. Critical thinker is going to be with us here on GPS today to talk about Grand Bahama and what really needs to happen to try to get that island back up and running. Because let me tell you something, I am old enough to remember when Grand Bahama was the spot. I mean, that was a place where it was happening. Grand Bahama's economy was strong, and it was a vibrant, growing city, and Freeport in particular, a vibrant, growing town. And, things were looking up. Grand Bahama was the place to be. And then, it got hit by a series of storms that really, I mean, wreaked havoc on the infrastructure on the island. And it just seemed to be, problem after problem, setback after setback, to get Grand Bahama where it is today. And Grand Bahama today is truly a shadow of what it once was. So does that mean that it can't get back to where it was? I don't believe that's what it means. I believe that Grand Bahama is more than capable of getting back to where it was. We just got to figure out what steps need to be taken to get there. And so I'm told now that my guest is on the broadcast, so we're going to bring him in. C. Alan Johnson.
Yes, just turning off these devices. People will call once they see me on air.
Well, give them these numbers to call. 3260271. Tell them call there. 3260271 or 3260272. 3260272. Those are the numbers to call. And they can also WhatsApp us at 824-9952. But if they got so much to say, tell them say it on air. We won't hear
I
them.
know. They always say this. Don't forget this.
No. We ain't playing that game today. We're not playing that game today. They got to call in themselves and let their voices be heard. Because I really want to hear from as many people from Grand Bahama as possible. You know what I mean? So it's not just me and you talking. It would be great to have as many people from Grand Bahama tune in and be a part of the broadcast. So thank you. So happy New Year, man. I see you since
Jesus greeting. Happy New Year and all the good. It's good to see that you're back. Okay. I just now gotta adjust my schedule to make sure I'm around for you.
Yes, you must, because I always follow.
I say, because believe it or not, just like you say, Grand Bahama is the linchpin to the economic recovery of the Bahamas. And so your show gonna have to take some focus on Grand Bahama to make sure that the Bahamians know what's happening here or the potential that's here.
Absolutely. So let's start at the beginning. How did Grand Bahama get to where it is right now?
Failure of leadership in the government for the last since 1992, and failure of the Grand Bahama Port Authority from around the same time. I know a lot of Grand Bahamians will want to counter and tell me about the facade of investments and things that has happened, and Everson George was a wonderful benefactor. But the question is, if anything was built that was sustainable, then why is it still not here even after his departure? And so oftentimes is that we have created almost like a slave mentality. When Massa was here, boy, this plantation was not like this. But Massa has died and left you the plantation. You don't need to reflect back on what he used to do to you or for you.
Right. Well, that is not the answer that I think a lot of people were expecting to hear. I think people were expecting to hear that the problem was related to other issues.
Well, yes, here's the problem you have. Here's the problem you would have with that, right? See, what happens is we have become almost like an insular type environment. We only want to compare us to us. And when we want to compare ourselves to the international community, we will try to find one of the 202 countries around the world that is doing worse than us as a comparative analysis. This is why we always move the goalposts. But success is how well you have done based on what you are capable of doing, not how well you have done compared to how bad somebody else has done. And so when you go back to what Grand Bahama potential was, and we talk, and nothing like COVID has brought us to the reality that myself and others has been predicting for almost a decade and a half. prepare ye, prepare ye, prepare ye. And now we are here. Famine is here. And Joseph and the others, the Pharaoh land with the pharaohs was doing for the plenty. I was telling them from my dreams, prepare for famine. Well, famine is here. We're seeing it in the news where food shortages and food prices is going to spike. We have food availability. 60% of the Bahamian families are now living on less than $4,200 a year. The minister, the chairman and the chairman for the PLP and minister of foreign affairs put at 47%. That's an old figure. It's closer to 60% or more. That is poverty and abject poverty of this Bahamian economy, and that's for people who is employed part-time or underemployed, and those that are unemployed. And so this is the reality. We're not good with statistics. We're good at hiding it or massaging it. But let's go back to Grand Bahama. We talk about this evolution. Grand Bahama was one, if not the first economic zone in a free port definition. The word is free port, and that's where we got the name Freeport from. And so it is actually none other, and will probably never be another like the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. And for those of you pseudo experts, and I'm saying this for you guys, you pseudo experts who repeat what people tell you about the Hawksbill Creek Agreement being amended and changed under Hubert Ingram or under Perry Christie and everything, it has not changed. The Hawksbill Creek Agreement is a law, and you cannot change law unless you strike it down. So if the law still is there, then it's not been changed. What has happened, however, is the Hawksbill Creek Agreement called for some actions to take place, similar like municipal government, land registry, and the works. The problem is the Hawksbill Creek Agreement also implies that no law should apply to Bahamians in Freeport that doesn't apply to Bahamians all across the Bahamas. And that's why we will not get Freeport. Freeport is known as the grand deception of the economic empowerment of Bahamians, because Freeport has the potential of, and we like to refer to Singapore and all these things.
Alan, give me a second. We have a caller on the line, and I don't want to miss the caller. Okay, so let's go to the caller. Caller, welcome to GPS. Caller.
Hello?
You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hello?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, I heard that question was, because my name is Johnson, Giles Johnson, and I phone to your panelists and yourself. Mm-hmm. And the question was asked about Freeport, and I just wanted to just make one little statement. The reason why I feel like Freeport down, it ain't really the government, And he mentioned the word leaders. I feel like the leader of every country that comes under the clergyman.
Leadership.
On God said over, listen me, God, when God appointed Solomon king, the first thing he did, Solomon, he came with the temple from confessing and praying. He said, listen me, God, my glory going into the temple. First King 10 and 18, 8 and 10. He said, listen me, God, when the glory went and the king couldn't go in the minister, he turned and said, Solomon, guess enough for you to lead this country as a king. It need to be balanced. Church and state got to work together as one. And that's where the linkage went wrong. When church is not bringing forth, when I say church, I'm in the building. Every king has someone God have assigned to instruct them how to lead their minds, because there's evil everywhere. Confusion, jealousy, envy, and fighting, killing, and stealing. Guns and pen and paper cannot control that. That comes from the great leadership who could submit himself to the law and the principle and the precept of God. And Freeport had plenty pride, so God had a humble Freeport. From as a young boy, Freeport was very up there. It's very up there, but when I went to live over there, it's like pride. Pride got them. So pride bring humility. And Freeport's going to rise back again, But God just had to put it in the way that His word could be established back in the hearts and the minds of the people.
Tell him don't hang up.
Okay.
And to get in the hearts and the minds of the people, it must first hit the leadership, which is high place, which is church and state. They got to recognize the power and the will of God.
Okay.
But so let me just say to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Two things destroys this country: politics and religion. They're all based on superstition rather than the actual principles of God or the principles of good governance.
Right.
See, I understand your quote of going into the temple, but please, the permissive will of God allows things to happen. But for you to claim that God has appointed this so-called leadership in our country over the number of years, direct appointment and direct direction, is absolutely garbage. With all due respect, I'm simply saying to
No,
you. No, let me finish. I listen to your point. Just as I'm saying to you, right?
All right.
There's a principle. There's something called biblical principle for governance. But oftentimes, when we begin to try to emulate 2,000 and 3,000 years ago, you miss the point. The Bible is also about godly principles for practical living, okay, and its application of its process. And so when we try to do these analogies of so-called Saul and this one and Joshua and everything else, it is purely out of context, and that's religiosity or whatever it is. And so essentially what I'm simply saying is, if we want to abide by godly principles, then we can do so. But please, let's not blame God or the absence of God, because God is never absent or separate us from what our will is.
Nothing, sir. You take it out of the context. I really think we to the world known as a Christian nation. Please. We saying one thing, we're not productive.
So we are not a Christian nation, neither do our Constitution say so.
I say you should we saying. I'm not saying we are.
Okay.
Please listen to me.
But right, that's what I'm saying.
No, sir, everything that runs in a nation called evil, called a spirit. And the deal with the spirit, flesh and blood cannot handle this, all right? And if you could be a leader in any nation, you cannot listen to pencil and paper. You said the letter.
I know, we got spirit of alcohol, spirit of prostitution, spirit of theft, spirit of everything. This is religious. I'm sorry, I see.
Gentlemen, we can all sing together, but we can't talk at the same
time.
Okay?
Give me a chance. If he keep coming with this religious talk, I'm not talking with religion. I base it on salvation. We are about to face our 49 year of independence. The government already getting part and do what they can do. I'm not saying put our first and arm of flesh. I'm trying to say either God can be God, Yahweh, Elohim can be God over this nation and within this nation and abide by this. The word made all things, not pencil and paper and our thoughts and our philosophy and so forth. Push that aside. That's garbage. What I'm trying to say is this. We celebrate the next independence. This nation was never consecrated back to God when all the clergymen and all the Bahama Island come together and repent. Joel chapter 2, he said, then I got to do a new thing within the land. Because they all came back to their
not the people.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want to become a religious debate, but see, again, out of context. He said, no, but I'm saying to you, just, Michelle, I'm finished with him. See, because you will keep going in circles with him. See, that's the problem. When the Bible said, if my people...
Hold on. Papa. Yeah, give him an opportunity to respond, okay?
See, I believe in context and everything, right? And I don't want to spend the entire time because I am also a student of the Bible. And so when he said, if my people would turn from their ways, wicked ways, he didn't say if the people. My people is a select group of people from amongst a whole larger group of people. And so again, we could go in this whole religious blaming everything. And this is what we do. We want to blame God for our success and the devil for our failures. And so we must accept responsibility for the actions we take and the decisions we make. The permissive will of God, if anyone to argue, allow the leadership we choose. God didn't choose the leadership for us. He gave us the free will to choose the leadership based on our collective intelligence or whatever the decision is. And so I don't want to have a religious debate. I want to talk about Grand Bahama, because Grand Bahama is a part of the entire Bahamas. And so to imply that God is punishing Grand Bahama would mean that God is punishing the Bahamas. And I don't believe that.
Okay, so let's get back to the main topic at hand, which is what is it going to take to get Grand Bahama back on its feet. Now, you say, C. Allen, that you had made some recommendations, or not just you, but people had made recommendations in the past that really, weren't heeded. And now we are facing famine. And now we see where these recommendations, if heeded, would have placed us in a better position than where we are right now. So my question to you is, let's talk about some of those recommendations. What are some of the things that you think we could have done and should have done to put us in a better position now as it relates to where Grand Bahama is at?
The primary goal was the digitization and digitalization of the economy. Digitalization is turning things digital. Digitalization is actually use of digital technology. The Bahamas, before I came on in the late 1990s, the Bahamas was considered for the 10th largest data center in the world. because we dragged our foot and we did not pass particular laws for IP protection and other things, because of some companies in the country that was abusing the intellectual property of the United States and others. This is why today you can't get certain things on YouTube. You cannot get Netflix and other things from the United States, and you have to settle for Spanish, is because we were pirates. We were still practicing piracy as a national position. And so the data center ended up in Miami, which now is about to become one of the largest tech hub days in the world. It did not, however, remove the fact that the Bahamas is the most digitally prepared country in the world. Now, I want you to understand, I'm saying the Bahamas. This is not my report. In The Guardian, December of 2019, or I think it was, or 2020, they ran an article saying that the Bahamas was the second. But they were just talking about pure technology, not the infrastructure, not the geolocation, some other things, variables on it. Now, I want you to pause. Out of the 200 countries in the world, the Bahamas is number one prepared for technology for the world we are in now. I want you now to consider that Freeport, not the Bahamas, not Grand Bahama, Freeport, if treated as a country, would be number two. So here it is in this country, we have the number one digitally prepared country in the world, and we have the number two digitally prepared country in the world is Freeport. Contextually, Freeport is 30 square miles smaller than Singapore, that we always like to refer to. Freeport fits in the Grand Bahama maybe 4 times, maybe a lot more, 4 to 5 times. Singapore, population 6 million. Grand Bahama, total population 50,000 or less. Infrastructurally, Deepwater Harbor, geolocation, 80% of all shipping traffic to the east coast of the United States pass in our waters, our territorial or economic zones. We are the third largest barrier reef where fish and the fish sea life is born and happens. We sit maybe on average 100 miles, 60 to 100 miles off the coast of the United States. The greatest consumer of technology, goods, and services. Over $3 trillion a year of goods and services is traded in the Bahamas. Forget the $16 billion GDP. $3 trillion according to WTO. $3 trillion a year of goods and services is traded within the Bahamas. We are ideally located for everything then and everything now. We just need now to change, to either adopt and adapt to the 21st century. What we've had is we had leadership. I want you to understand, though, going back to another point, the first digital revolution began in 1992. And believe it or not, that was the major shift of governance in the Bahamas with Hewlett Alexander Ingram administration coming in. But the question is, as the world has technologically advanced in the first digital revolution ending in 2017, how has the Bahamas, having that designation, advanced? We have not. We are now in the second digital revolution, third technology revolution, fourth industrial revolution, in the IoT, all of these various aspects of globalization that we didn't understand. We wanted to go the other way. The WTO was just the pen and paper way. And we have yet to wake up and have a conversation beyond your show, Michelle. No other talk show host talks about tomorrow or even today. What's now, what's new, and what's next? Because we want to always spend our time talking about what somebody did or didn't do or whatever from yesterday, as opposed to doing what they say. The best way to guarantee the future is to build it. And so here we are, most digitally prepared country in the world, easily 125,000 families or individuals, workers in this country is unemployed or underemployed. And most of them, out of that 125,000, 80% of them is not going to go back to the jobs they have. And so the only alternative we have is the digitalization of our economy. We've heard the former administration talk about these, and now the new administration, the orange economy, the blue economy, the green economy, the knowledge economy, the conceptual economy, the digital economy, and that's the small d, which is all built on the global digital, on the larger d, the larger digital economy. Then we now have a concept that was propped by Eden Mary Gator called the aquamarine economy, which is a combination of those economies, which is uniquely only possible in the Bahamas, the aquamarine economy. And so here it is that if you look at each one of these subsets, you could create literally 50,000, 100,000 jobs in the next 2 to 3 years. But it requires a disruption. And this is where Grand Bahama is very important in what is called the Grand Deception. It requires a disruption of the economics and political power in our country. This is why in 1990, when it required that a municipal government be established in Freeport, none was given to us. We was given this facade in 1993 when they wanted to delay the implementation of the tenets of the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement. It was not an extension. It was a delayed implementation of the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement that bypassed these things that were supposed to happen. So what happens is, if you were to give municipal government self-governance, self-taxation that they're trying to give us variation of right now, and 50% of the taxes generated in Freeport would have stayed with the local government authority, which would amount to maybe half of $150 million a year. And so essentially, then Freeport, and by extension, East and West Grand Bahama, could have came together as a coalition, almost as if to a state, and begin to develop its own economy. We have, according to the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement, we have autonomy over the airport, we have autonomy over the harbor, we have autonomy over air at the police department, we have autonomy over customs, we have everything. These were things they want to strip off. So essentially, the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement, in the purest tenets, the Grand Bahama Port Authority that often people refer to, which is the greatest, the Grand Bahama Port Authority is the greatest scam there is. And this is why they hide the documents. And I challenge them to bring me on this. Because what happens is those reports that I've seen, I can't hear you, Michelle.
This back to the stream. We have to take a break. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to take this break. And then when we come back, we are going to continue this conversation with C. Alan Johnson with regard to what it's going to take to get Grand Bahama back on its feet. We invite you to be a part of this conversation. The telephone numbers are 326-0271, 326-0271, 326-0272, 326-0272 are the numbers to call. And the WhatsApp number is 824-9952, 824-9952. What is it going to take to get Grand Bahama back on its feet? Let's talk about it. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Global Paradigm Shift will return after this.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for rims, tints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Track Life, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Last is love.
Host Jervon Hunt is on every Friday evening at 4 p.m. Listen in to be
And we are back. Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here, along with my guest, C. Alan Johnson, who we are now bringing into the...
You're muted again.
Leave this camera up, okay? C. Alan...
So you muted again. Okay.
Okay. All right. So, C. Alan, you had some very interesting things to say prior to the break when we had to sort of interrupt you mid-thought about what you think are the steps that we need to be taking. And, I want to hear some more on that, but I want you to break it down, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, etc. But before we do, I just have to let you guys know about a special promotion that is going on with Dairy Queen. Impress your bae this Valentine's with a DQ photo cake and a personalized message, or a heart-shaped Cupid cake. Photo cake orders must be placed and image received 24 to 48 hours in advance. So hurry up and order now. Say I love you this month with DQ. You can check out any of their locations. All right, C. Allen, let's go. Step 1.
Step 1, stop the divide and conquer mentality that the politicians have adopted you. When they go to Lutra, they tell you it's no longer the Bahamas. We only need to talk to Lutrians. When they go to Mayaguana, they tell you we only need to talk to Mayaguanans. But understand, it's one treasury, one government. We are all involved in input in its development. So when we begin to speak about Grand Bahama, let's demand informed debates concerning what Grand Bahama is and what it's going to be, and stop allowing them to tell you on New Providence or Abaco or Andres or Eleuthera or Cat Island that you have nothing to do with what happens in Grand Bahama. Grand Bahama is directly integrated to your economic future and that of your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. That's number 1. So start demanding the economic strategy from the Ministry of Grand Bahama, the Minister of Grand Bahama, and the Minister of Finance, who is responsible for the economic direction of this country. No more talk about what the potential is. No more talk about what your ideas are. Bring implementable, executable strategies that we can begin to have a discussion of exactly how we're going to do it, who is going to do it, and who is going to be involved. Nothing can happen economically on New Providence to stimulate the economy in such a manner to bring back 125 to 150,000 people in the shortest term back into the economic pool. New Providence is maxed out. The concept of mega hotels is dead. Okay? COVID has changed that forever. And so we must adopt and adapt to the new reality of hospitality and tourism. First of all, hospitality is what people experience. Tourism is what people do. Okay? Sports tourism, religious tourism, medical tourism, those are what people do, and hospitality is the experience that they have. So we have to look at both, combining them back together. We used to do sun, sand, and sea and service. A survey in 2009 and again in 2016, 2017 said that we still have sun, sand, and sea because they haven't went anywhere. However, our service have gone out the window. We have other surrounding countries beating us at what we invented. Okay? Now, we also now, in demanding that economic plan, step 2, is come to realize the truth of what Grand Bahama is and get through the veil of the grand deception. The Grand Bahama Port Authority does not exist except has been indoctrinated into the minds of Bahamians and marketed by those who are ill-informed, repeating information, and those leadership who want you to believe they still exist. Example, if I had peas and rice, and you came to the table and I said, sorry, we out of peas. I sold the peas, I sold the thyme, I sold the tomato paste, I sold the salt, and I just put a bowl of white rice and says, just imagine it's still peas and rice. You'd think I'm a crazy person. Well, that's exactly what you're doing with the Grand Bahama Port Authority. The Grand Bahama Port Authority is a combination of things. The power plant, the water system, the maintenance system, the whole combination of things. They have stripped all of the assets of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and they lie in Cayman Islands, where they haven't sold, relies in the Cayman Island. So Grand Bahama, when you want a license for Grand Bahama, you must go to government and get a government license. Then you go, yes.
Stick a pin in that. We have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Hey, thank you. See, Alan, my boy, I like this. I want to ask you, well, first of all, make a comment. It has been my research and it's showing that there's a direct correlation between the crime we're experiencing in the Bahamas to the number of voodoo churches that we have popping up. And it seems to be the more churches we have, the more crime. So that's been my research, and I could prove that.
Did you just say voodoo churches?
Sorry?
Did you just say voodoo churches?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, because they're now practicing it in the cemetery, and it's a church.
Okay.
And it's directly related to crime. But that's not what I will talk about, because we could deal with that later.
Yeah, that's another show.
See, Alan, this Port Authority thing where you can bring in duty-free, why can't we just, if it's true, why can't we bring everything that we want to bring to the country in Freeport so there's no duty paid on it, and then distribute it throughout the Commonwealth? Is that possible?
No, it would be illegal. But let me explain the duty-free concessions. The duty-free concessions is only for goods and services that is incorporated into your business. It's not for selling or disbursement. If I want to bring a vehicle for my business, I want to bring a hammer, I want to bring whatever I can incorporate within my business. That's where the duty-free concessions is. And I want you to notice the key word you said, duty-free, because we have a facade running in Freeport on this garbage called bonded, which is garbage. That's not what the Hospital Agreement called for. Again, modification of the truth. It's almost like the devil. He never lie to you. He gives you an alternative truth. So the duty-free is when you bring it in duty-free, not bonded, tied up somewhere, and you incorporate it into your direct use of your business. But anything that is being directly consumed by the public, sold to the public, is not duty-free. However, you can bring them in duty-free and pay the duty upon selling them when you dispose of them. So this is where it becomes a free economic zone of what it is. The government of the Bahamas, however, have the authority to declare anywhere in the Bahamas an economic zone. The same way they declared it in Abaco, the same way they declared it in East Grand Bahama and West Grand Bahama, because Grand Bahama is not duty-free. Freeport is. However, at this time, we have an economic zone declaration because of Dorian that makes everything, with some limitations, duty-free to this island and duty-free to Abaco, where there's building supplies, home supplies, and various incorporation. But going back to the purity of the Hospital Creek Agreement, yacht and cars and vehicles should be incorporated in. But we have some hybrids that we have created where you get a car in Freeport, you can't go to East and West. The Hospital Creek Agreement does not address that as such. And so, this is where we have to have a real conversation on what Freeport is and what Grand Bahama potential is. But believe it or not, the need for duty-free around the Bahamas is lack of the economic ability for us to carry our own weight. Because if you have people living on poverty wage, then you must also you must find a way to subsidize them. And so if we actually have a balance of the economy, which Grand Bahama does, and Michelle asked a question, what's stopping Grand Bahama? Fear from the leadership, the oligarchs, and the plutocrats, that you, the people, will have the power returned to you.
Thank you so much for calling, caller. See, my question, and you sort of led to it just now in that answer, C. Allen. My question is this. If you know all of these things, and so many other people know all of these things, I would think that the leaders of the nation know all of these things too. So is it that I am holding them to too high of a standard, that they really just don't know no better, or they just intentionally, aren't so quick to make this happen because of what you just said?
The leadership is chosen from among us. On September 16th, those individuals was told, many of them were ignorant to what I'm telling you. Don't believe because they were elected, they became this genius dome where they believe they know everything. They do believe it though, but they don't know. But there's many who have served in government, and who's serving in government right now is well aware that we could test these theories. But because what happens is, if you develop Grand Bahama, people in New Providence killing themselves for land on New Providence, $100,000, $150,000 for a piece of spot. You could come to Grand Bahama and find land as low as $5,000, and on average in Freeport of about $20,000, with all infrastructure, light, cable, internet, everything ready to build. $25,000 for a quarter acre or more, with everything that is necessary. The problem is they would not allow the economic development of Grand Bahama, and they've used the Grand Bahama Port Authority as a boogeyman excuse whipping pole. So whenever something happens, they go and hide behind the state, what the Grand Bahama Port Authority is not doing. But if you go back to the Hawksbill Creek Agreement to 1990, you will realize that the Grand Bahama Port Authority technically didn't exist. This is why they divested themselves of all the assets, So there's a number of things we need in Grand Bahama, but the most we need is understanding from the pseudo intellectuals that want to tell you what Grand Bahama is without understanding what it is. But here's we go back to the leadership not knowing. If you go back to Plato's allegory of the cave, where people were born and chained into the cave, looking at the walls, only seeing the shadows of the light from the outside or the fire shining on the wall. So they made up names of what this is, dog, cat, whatever, based on the shadows. One day, one of the prisoners in the cave got out and went outside, and the light from the sun hurt his eyes. Eventually his eyes adjusted, and he began to see what a dog looked like in real life, a tree looked like, and the trees have many colors and everything else. And he saw the whole outside world from outside of the cave. And being excited to go back into the cave and let them know that that shadow on the wall is not a tree. A tree has many colors, it's not gray. And so the leadership who had taken control of the cave and got to distribute the food and everything else whispered among the other cave dwellers, don't listen to him. The sun have driven him mad, and he's a madman, and we all happy here, and things are gonna function. That's myself and thousands of others who have made it out of the cave. We call it the intellectual capital that's left the Bahamas, and have refused to come back into the cave because they know leadership will be continued chosen from many who don't know there's some light outside of the cave, and some who have made it to the door and are using that knowledge to be kings and queens among the cave dwellers.
Somebody sent us a WhatsApp message that says, y'all all see why the Bahamas the way it is. He been to school, no insight at all. He has too much head knowledge. As a nation, we lost by religion and pen and paper. Mr. Wisdom, he too educated. Isaiah 55, 8-9. Even God, repent, he made Saul king. 1 Samuel 15, 10, 11. Even God repented. Do you have any response for that, T. Allen?
More religious joke, purely out of context. This is where, it's amazing that they'll choose certain words. Why don't they go to choose some things in Deuteronomy where you're supposed to sell your daughters and keep slaves and all these other different things? See, this is where I said religion. I didn't say relationship that God came for. God never invented religion. Okay? He came for relationship. And the problem is religion is a man construct, and I'll bet you most of them have some denomination they subscribe to that is purely garbage, that you must go through some pastor or something, and they take words out. The Bible itself said, study and show yourself approved. And that root word means go out of. Okay? And I guarantee I've met religious fanatics, and I've given them the Tanakh. And I asked them to read the Tanakh, and they tell me, I don't read nothing but the Bible. And I go, really? So the Bible is an interpretation of the Tanakh, but you wouldn't read the original document. This is where religion does. Religion, sole goal, is a method of control. And I'm saying to people, if you want the message of God, seek relationship with him and dump that religious garbage you've been taught.
All right, so let's get back online with the topic at hand. All right, so let's go to step number 2. What's step number 2 for us to take to try to
organize? Right. So step number 2 goes back to something I said before. Demand a strategy so you could see yourself. How do you fit into the strategy? Were they talking about these different things? We need an airport on Grand Bahama. In case for people who don't know, the airport is the responsibility of the Grand Bahama Port Authority under the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. How do we, if you say this agreement still exists and the Grand Bahama Port Authority still exists, why is it on our shoulders? Why? Because the Grand Bahama Port Authority has no life except for the extraction of wealth from businesses through license fees, for which they bring no value. And I ask people, name one thing the Grand Bahama Port Authority has done on Grand Bahama since 1990. Name one. Don't tell me the harbor, government brought that here. Don't tell me the hotel, government forced that here. Everything on Grand Bahama, the Port Authority shows up for ribbon cutting. Listen to me. If you have today, because of the economy, if the government was to have a letter opening the Port Authority will show up. See, so what I'm simply saying is that we must now demand a strategy to be revealed and stop with the excuses. And if you don't know how to dispute the excuses the leadership going to say, find someone that does. Because the problem is that and I hear people say, Grand Bahama is only made for the industrial. Do you need me to go to the 16, 17 hotels was on Grand Bahama? The Life, the Jakarta, the Holiday Inn, the Memories. Grand Bahama was a tourism town. It still is.
Was, yeah.
Okay, so these are these people who are repeating what they've been told. These Johnny come lately, what they've been told. And so what I'm simply saying is that what we need is the main thing, number two, a contextually correct conversation of the potential for Grand Bahama. We could move 60 to 70,000 people to the Grand Bahama in 2 years by simply adopting a new hospitality model. The very bed and breakfast we talk about, of bringing back the economy. We have the beaches. I mean, if you go for the land of Grand Bahama and government has the authority for those that have been blocked or been taken away to take it back in the interest of the people. Just quick sidebar, Michelle. For people who say that the Bahamas government is broke, no, we are more like stupid, not broke. Let's say we got 3 billion land, we say, or even 1 billion left. Mm-hmm. If we were to take 50,000 prime acres, assign a development value of 300,000 to it, you got $15 billion right then and there. 50,000 acres I want you to take 50,000 out of the 1 million acres, we have that left. We're not going to destroy it. This is developmental value. Put it on the blockchain, put it whatever. We raised $15 billion right then and there as part of a sovereign wealth fund. We're not lacking the resources. What we're lacking is leadership who don't bend and cower to the oligarchs, the plutocrats who have now set up as a class above them. And here's the point. We need to get over for Grand Bahama. If you want Freeport, get over the fanatics. They call them fans. For those of you all who like sports, you love this one. The fans, the fanatic. You buy your own T-shirt, you buy everything, and you cheer the team on. And when your team loses, you say, next season, we'll have our chance. Then you have the players. That's called the MPs, okay? They run around, they look to be drafted. That's why you have these third parties. That's the minor league looking to come up to the major league. Then you have the managers, and we call them a certain level of oligarchs and whatever else, and plutocrats who have ascended it from the political class. But you know what happens when you go to a football team? Very few, or to a basketball team, very few people looks at the sky booth. That's where the owners sit. You don't get to see them. You don't get to hear them. They determine who the manager's going to be. They determine who the player's going to be. And they determine what the fans is going to pay so they can enjoy a luxury life. And so we must break that, and we must become owners so we all could sit in the booth and have other people play and perform for us. And the best way to do that is the economic empowerment of Grand Bahamians. But the beauty is, even without the immediate sovereign wealth fund, billions of dollars is available today, right in the Ministry of Tourism and other places, billions of dollars in data that we could utilize to develop our entire economy of Grand Bahama. We could build 20,000 rooms, which will blow the construction industry away. We talk about affordable housing in the Bahamas, and I challenge the Minister of Housing to call me out on this, and the Minister of Investment. We could give away 20 to 30,000 homes to Bahamians for $0. See, like the PLP sign, $0. So what happens though is either they are unaware or willfully ignorant, because ignorance can be cured. And so what Bahamians simply have to do is first begin to believe in us, believe in yourself, believe in me, believe in us. And so I know we've been beaten, we've been lied to, we've been downtrodden, whatever. But when somebody tells you something, don't say, oh, he talks too much, he knows too much. You don't call me a liar. Go to your leader. Go to Mr. Philip Brave Davis, Chester Cooper, Fred Mitchell, all your leaders, and demand that they call me a liar or ill-informed or ill-prepared directly. Have them answer me directly. See, because you're saying, I don't feel like he knows what he's talking about. feel? Do you know that I don't know what I'm talking about, or you feel it? I don't go with feelings, man. Even Jesus says, I came to free the captive of the five senses that will get you, make you wrong. You don't believe everything you see, hear, smell, and taste. It'll deceive you every single time. Develop the spirit man who can decipher between them all. See, so the problem is that we have been dumbed down, led astray, bamboozled, and whatever else. The third thing for Grand Bahama, stake your claim. If you stake your claim, if you stake ownership in it, you will have more in tune to demand ownership, better ownership takes place, or your involvement in your ownership. Okay, there's enough land, like you say, more than enough land for us to develop Grand Bahama and move. But here's another key point to that, though, Michelle.
Well,
If you
I want you to stick a pin in that because
okay,
we have to go to a break, and I don't want you to get started on the point and then have to stop midway. So let's just stick a pin in that. But I want to, before we go to the break, I want to say that uh, got to shout out one of my sponsors. You know, ladies, Valentine's Day is right around the corner, so you got to get ready for that special event. And
guys,
so
too.
I want to. Well, this one just for the ladies, okay? This one just for the ladies. Ladies,
Okay.
you can actually check out Unique Hair and Nails and Beauty Salon, boutique as well, on Blue Hill Road South, where you can go and get yourself all dolled up. You can get relaxers, treatments, weaves, pedicures, manicures, acrylic nails, child's polish, even church clothes, casual clothes, and date night clothing in their boutique, which is immediately next door to the salon. And trust me when I tell you, they have some fabulous stuff in there. They're all the way on Blue Hill Road South. I want you to check them out. The telephone number to call 5564055 to schedule your appointment. And then, guys, when it's time for you to take them, your loved ones, well, the ladies might want to treat the guys as well, somewhere nice for Valentine's Day to get a wonderful meal and a great atmosphere. Why not check out the Tiki Bikini Hut on Junkanoo Beach? Listen, Byron Coley Austin and his crew go all out to make you feel like family. You walk through the doors and they start playing the Junkanoo music just to welcome you. That's how much they appreciate your business. But the food is absolutely incredible, both in the way it tastes and the way it is presented. You get to hang out on the beach, you get to enjoy the sun, the sand, the sea, and it is in a family friendly environment. So definitely check out the Tiki Bikini Hut on Junkanoo Beach, whether it's just for lunch any other day or for a special occasion like Valentine's Day. They would be happy to make you feel right at home. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more with C. Allen Johnson. We're talking about what is it going to take to get Grand Bahama back on its feet. Lord knows it's been on its back for too long. So that and more on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for rims, tints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Track Lights, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blessed love.
You know the man.
You just don't know.
And he's waking you up weekday mornings from 6 to 10.
Stop playing.
This is the home of the Steve Harvey Morning Show. You best believe that.
It's our very own Steve Harvey.
Elba might possibly be the next James Bond.
Ain't nobody told Tyrese that.
And welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm in your company. Thanks so much for tuning in to our show today. And I want to shout out another one of our sponsors before we dive back into the conversation with C. Alan Johnson, the Balloon People. Yes, the Balloon People on Soldier Road. Soldier Road, that would be Soldier Road West. Yeah, heading towards Blue Hill Road. The Balloon People have a deluxe special going on now for the special person in your life. You can get helium or air balloons, and they also have greeting cards, chocolates, and free delivery within 2 miles. Prices start as low as $55. So, if your budget a little tight, you could still take care of your bay. So check them out. Pineapple Bay Plaza, Soldier Road West. Call 677-8677 or WhatsApp 822-1254 to get yourself sorted out, because you ain't want to be in the doghouse for Valentine's. That's not an option, right? So we are talking to C. Alan Johnson, our guest today, and the topic is, what in the world is it going to take to get Grand Bahama back on its feet? Lord knows they've been catching it a little while. Back in the day when things keep going wrong in your life, you say, my God, I must see tea from the church. Who in Grand Bahama tea from the church? I'm just kidding, y'all. No, but seriously, Grand Bahama has been going through for a long time, C. Allen. And, the sad thing is, election after election after election, Grand Bahama gets a lot of representatives, who should know what y'all going through. Many of them from Grand Bahama, they know. But you would think that all them representatives in the House, that you'll see some kind of progress. But it's like they get in there and they just drink the Kool-Aid.
No, because again, they only get recruited onto the team. They don't get to make decisions. The managers even see. Do you know a player don't even get to decide who gets to play? The managers do, and if the owners tell them who gets to play, who don't get to play, so they choose the manager choose what's in the team owner's best interest.
So who are these owners you're talking about? Who are the owners in our?
No, they're both in the Bahamas and outside of the Bahamas. Those are the special interests. This is why we talk about this $16 billion economy, right? We talk about this $3 trillion. There's 250,000 companies in this country, all for the purpose of moving money and assets around the world that we don't get the benefit. Changes that is necessary for us as Bahamians to benefit is a disadvantage to them. Notice there's as much companies as there are adults in the Bahamas. But if we are to own this company, there's no benefit in them being here except a few lawyers and law firms. And believe it or not, law firms in this country control the judiciary, control the courts, control everything. Okay, look at where the appointment comes from. Look at where the QCs come from, and look where even the MPs who get nominated come from. This is a select group. Only the people can disrupt what is going on. This is the one time in history that we as a people have the opportunity to disrupt what has been happening for the last 30 plus years in the Bahamas and Grand Bahama as a whole. But Grand Bahama is a linchpin for that to happen because we have the landmass, we have the infrastructure, we have the place for the airport. Don't mind that rundown airport we paid a few $1 million for, The second or third largest airport in this entire region is on Grand Bahama that they don't want to talk about in East Grand Bahama, the former Air Force base where the shuttle was designed to be landed. I don't know if it's designed. I think the shuttle even landed there on one time. Okay, it's in East Grand Bahama. Nobody wants to talk about it. No one's want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about the second one also in Mayaguana. They sold you a lie in a bill of goods about Mayaguana being a dump. Mayaguana was the base of operations for when they were having the Cuban Missile Crisis. We are well poised, infrastructurally and otherwise, to do whatever. That the problem is this: the Bahamas is controlled by keeping the people centralized on this place called New Providence. This is why no economic policy happens outside of New Providence. But here's why: because they have grabbed a hold of the economic vehicles in the Bahamas, more so influencing the bank and the financial policies. But COVID has accelerated what was expected to happen between 23 and 25. You hear them talk about DeFi, decentralized finance, and fintech and everything. We have no longer need for the banks. This is why, listen to me, I'm predicting to you, I said this about 2 years ago on your show. But within the next two more years, probably 75% of the banks we know in the Bahamas will be gone as we know it. There'll be 1 or 2 Scotia Bank locations, 1 Royal Bank locations, everything. The world is moving to digital. And so this whole concept, this is where we fight. This is why we have this facade of fintechs going in the Bahamas, because a real rollout of the sand dollar and fintech will show you the need for banks is irrelevant. Use sand dollar as an example. You put $500 in the bank, and they start taking $5 and $10 a month from you. You put $500 in your sand dollar account, which is the same as the central bank, because they're the regulator and protector. Nothing is taken out of your account, not a dime. Okay, you could pay every bill in the Bahamas could be paid with a sand dollar, which is the digital currency. But what happens is DeFi also allows you to reach outside of the Bahamas for mortgages. You can literally go and get a mortgage, a zero interest mortgage, and I challenge people to call me up, check me out on this, zero interest mortgage, or and I want to. I'm not going to complicate this because we're going to do a show maybe next week on how to finance a home with zero money down and zero monthly payments.
Yeah, I think everybody want to know that.
Right, and we no, they will. And you'll be amazed at the same time that you'll revitalize the construction industry. And even for those that kind of government is doing these homes, right? It'll be hard pressed. Imagine a mortgage where no lawyer is needed, where no real estate agent is needed, and no bank is needed. This is not fantasy. You can Google this and find it right now. It exists today. And the problem is that it has no borders, and it exists right here in the Bahamas. And I invite people to reach out to me on social media or any one of my accounts. And we can begin this immediately. And instead of buying this encampment called affordable housing that's done by government, where they give you a fraction of the lot that you should get, I'm talking about building a 1 acre lot. I'm talking where Michelle, let me tell you what Grand Bahama can provide. Grand Bahama can give you a house with zero money down. Listen carefully, zero money down, zero payments, and pay you $2,000 a month for living in the house.
Okay, so you looking to cause a stampede to Grand Bahama now.
I hope so. But let me tell you why they would not, we have to demand this happen.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is you go back to how they control New Providence, the finances. This is why they fight to control the harbors and the airport and the transport system. They don't have that control on Grand Bahama or any other island. They're trying to get Andres and Mayaguana. They're the 3 major points. But here's what happens. The reason they want you there is because they control the prices, they control the economy. Anybody on Grand Bahama will tell you that you could go 60 miles, 75 miles offshore to Miami and get all your goods and services and bring it back to Grand Bahama for a fraction of what it'll pay for. The only problem with that on Grand Bahama, nobody got any money to do it. but the fact is that if you want to develop Grand Bahama with its hundreds of thousands of acres, right? And I said to you, Freeport is massive compared to Nassau, or New Providence as we call it. We call it Nassau as New Providence. Mm-hmm. And Freeport could sit in Grand Bahama 4 times. So that tells you the volume of people can handle and the land mass we have. But here's what happens. If we were to build those 20,000 homes in Grand Bahama and give them away, do you know what happens when 20,000 families move from New Providence?
What?
Scary. 40,000 votes. Divide that by 5,000. You got 8 seats. Leaves New Providence, and now the majority of the voting public now lives outside of New Providence, and the people who have control of New Providence that can influence those MPs and those people no longer be able to influence you. Because imagine that you have the economic power within your might. If 20,000 of you is equal to the 20,000 of you will be a massive force compared to the small select group of families, 17 families. And so you will become economically superior to them because you will not need their services for banking. You will not need their services for auto repair, auto purchasing autos. You will not need their services for fuel because you can use solar energy. You will not need. So this is where the disruption. We are in the age of disruption. The Bahamas is poised. In fact, this very idea of the DNA was the principle for which this conversation was started under. It never matured because they sought to become part of the master's tool as opposed to standing out. And all the third parties, they grab pieces of information and they run with it. Many of them can't explain it to you, though, but they play on the ignorance of the Bahamian people. The leadership is no better than what we have there. They play on the ignorance of the Bahamian people who wants feel good. Hope is the new dope in the Bahamas, We got nothing but dope dealers posing as leaders, selling hope. But going back to what Grand Bahama is, you take Grand Bahama and begin to relocate people who just have the desire for economic independence and to be involved in the economy of the Bahamas, and they will break the back of the oligarchs. Because why? Because you will now send 8 people or 13 people or 15 people from Grand Bahama that will vote the way Grand Bahamians want to vote. And we will begin to influence what happens because other people on Cat Island and Long Island and Maguana will look to Grand Bahama and say, we won't be like them, not New Providence. And they will join with Grand Bahama. They will join with Abaco and others for the economic independence that the 21st century now avails to all Bahamians, if only they're educated to what digitization has done to the global economy. And actually take an opportunity to actually own it and make sure that the proper laws are put in place and the resources, such as what sits in tourism, such as what sits in the the Prime Minister hand. Don't mind him hiding the Prime Minister. The power is in the Prime Minister to change the Bahamas in 24 hours.
The
power, yes.
With all due respect, you're talking about digitization and all this kind of. We can't even get an educational platform what could stay up long enough.
You know why? Because we don't want to fix it. We don't want to see. Let me say something. Technology, just pause. Let me show the power of education technology, because this goes from the cradle to the grave for education. What was happening today over the last 2 years from the previous minister and the current minister, they're not to blame. What they're to blame for is accepting the willful ignorance, arrogance of ignorance from the people who was advising them. Because Glennis Hannah Martin, the Honorable Glennis Hannah Martin, is repeating the same thing in a different way that Jeffrey Lloyd did. That means the same. They whispered in Jeffrey left ear, they're whispering in her right. But here's the problem. Education, when you embrace technology, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, Billions have been spent already to do this. Khan academies and all kind of models already there. We spent $16 million on our own model for some guys in Jamaica that couldn't fix Jamaica education system. We want to fix ours. But we have a small enough demographics of 100,000 people. What education? That's what education does. Today, all we can do is use technology right now to assess where a student is. They're in grade 5.
Okay.
Right? Give me 60 seconds.
Because we have a call on the line.
Okay. Let's take the call and come back to education.
Yeah, all right. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Hello, is this Ortland Bodie show?
Sir, this is Michelle Malcolm. I know I don't sound nothing like Ortland Bodie.
No, I'm sorry.
Welcome to GPS.
I'm sorry, Michelle, because guess what? I guess you recognize the voice, right?
I'm not sure that I do.
Yeah, but what happened is I didn't even listen to the radio all year.
Okay.
And it's we call Ortland Bodie.
He's no longer with this station, sir. So we're talking about Grand Bahama and what is it going to take to get Grand Bahama back on its feet. So do you have a contribution to that show?
Well, to get Grand Bahama back on its feet,
mm-hmm.
First you get to start with removing all of the deception.
Okay.
And go in there and basically like to look at the infrastructure. The infrastructure after Dorian is basically still in shambles, right?
No. Go ahead, we're listening.
No. And no, I'm asking you, is the infrastructure
no.
It's no. Down, that's what I'm saying, yeah. So I mean, it's like houses made damage. Our roads, everything is there. The airport is there. The building is not. I'm saying that's not infrastructure. The buildings are not. No, and then the government, the previous government, I understand that they bought that location for $1, and they're going to be building, but it didn't even make no sense because if that area was always swamped in, even when there were minor storms, not major storms, what sense is putting an airport there when, in essence, it's going to flood out? in reality, you know.
No, because technology allows us to build to accommodate that.
Okay, so what you're gonna do? You're gonna put the runway on still?
No, let me ask you a question.
Yes,
No,
sir.
listen, be careful. How many planes do you know fly in hurricane to deliver tourists?
Yeah, no, no. I know they do, right? But what I'm saying is, I'm not talking about the plane. I'm talking about the land. The land is underwater.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Beg pardon?
But as I'm saying to you, the storm is 24 hours. The water that goes there doesn't stay there for days and weeks. It recedes almost immediately. The runway, everything is there. It hasn't been damaged. It just
the damage at the terminal. How about left in the terminal?
No, but that's what I'm saying. But we can build buildings that can withstand that purposely designed.
Yeah,
you understand what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Huh?
Exactly. Me and you on the same page. But
right.
you know, I said the word stilt, right? To elevate it above any kind. I'm saying if you know that the water levels are going to rise to 4, 5, 6 feet, 10 feet, right? So
right.
like common sense to tell you, okay, look here, let's put this building up on stilts and do a ramp to it.
So in essence, what you're saying, caller, is better planning, because I don't want us to get
It's
bogged
planning.
down. Yeah,
It's
because
planning.
we do have another caller that's waiting on the line. So that I just want us to be more concise. So in essence, what you're saying is we need better planning for Grand Bahama for the infrastructure.
You have to plan.
Yeah.
You don't just haphazardly just put buildings in boxes and hot boxes. It's like, we already know what happened in Dorian. We know what happened in previous storms, right?
Right.
So I mean, like, why, if common sense isn't involved, why would you just go and put the same or a next building, the same place at the same height, or raise it up 2 feet higher? It will be okay now. It isn't okay because you already know what happened in the past. Once you know what happened in the past, you know what to do in the future, in the present.
All right. Thank you so much for calling, sir. Thank you so much for calling. Let's go to the next caller. Are they still there? All right, caller, welcome to GPS. Hi, you're on the air.
Yes, good evening, Miss Malcolm. Good evening, C. Allen.
Hey, what you saying?
Hey, 52.
I'm anxious to hear what C. Allen has to say as far as using the data or the technology to know where students are, because I just really would like him to comment on the digital apartheid and digital democracy, because I'm reading, and he's well versed in this field, right? So, the thing is, as far as the digital democracy, capital surveillance and data rights, and how these big tech companies are using the data cloud to sell to companies. And so I'm looking at the monetization of this and where we are at this level, because most people seem to be ignoring it. I know he mentioned it a few times on the radio. So that's where my head is at. And so just a little thing to Big Brother, man. Yeah, there's no such thing as too much head knowledge. That's just jealousy, man. I don't know what's wrong with us people. Give thanks. Yeah, man.
All right, 52.
Thanks, 52. Just on that side, I can come back to education because data is a part of it.
Okay.
The Bahamas is the only nation in the world, as people begin to fight and push back for data privacy and data sovereignty. The Bahamas is the only country I'm aware of that can give constitutional data privacy and constitutional data protection. That would make the billions of people around the world who want data privacy and data sovereignty to flock to the Bahamas if the proper legal infrastructure is put in the world. The same way Estonia gives digital passports. We could retire our national debt by simply passing the proper data laws. But of course, it also disrupts what we have been doing in the past. So essentially, by becoming a digital citizen of the Bahamas, you would all Facebook, Google, and all these major data aggregators will be forced to follow the rules that we give for data ownership, meaning this. Anybody that has data on you, Michelle, if you're a citizen of the Bahamas, digitally or regular citizen, would have to disclose to you the data they have. And remember, like how you have ASCAP and BMI for the record business. If they make a profit from it, they would have to give you a percentage of the profit because it's your data that they're exploiting individually and collectively. You would then also, you could require a certain amount of data to be kept in the Bahamas. You could blow the Bahamas away for data storage. Because if you say, if you're going to keep data on my citizens, it has to be within my jurisdiction. Build some data centers. They're automatic when data center comes here and these technology hubs come here, the people come. It's like Singapore and the other places. And so we just need something longer than 4-year visions. These 5-year celebrities has cracked me up. I call them 5-year celebrities because that's what they're stars for 5 years. And essentially, they got a 4-year plan of getting reelected. And so we have to get away from these 5-year incarnations that we have between FNM, PLP, and thing. What we need is an agenda by people. We need a people's manifesto, not a PLP manifesto, not an FNM manifesto. We need to have Michael Pintard and Philip Brave Davis in their rightful position of answering to us, the bosses. But until we get past the point of asking for handouts, we are in a mindset, and we've been developed this a mindset of scarcity. We need to be in this Garden of Eden that God has given us of plentiful, and we need to begin to exploit the riches and the wealth. There's no other country in the world cumulatively that has the oil resources, the aragonite resources, the shipping lanes, the air lanes, the mangroves, whatever you want to go, that the Bahamas have. No other country in the world. And so the problem is they've convinced you that you don't own nothing. They've convinced you that you need money. They've convinced you that you need to give your resources to somebody else who will give you a percentage back. Let me use an example. If you was to win $1 million today, would you take it to an investment firm and say, here's the $1 million, give me back 15%? If you wouldn't do that, then why would you give away your natural resources and say if you get 15%, 20%, you'll be okay? You'll be a mad person. You pay people to manage those things for you. And this is why I'm looking forward to having this conversation with the Minister of the Environment, Mr. Warren Miller, who's been silent for the last 5 months. Because we are in an economic crisis, and his ministry, with the signature of the Prime Minister, holds the key to our economic revolution. And we need, and technically, with all due respect, we only need to hear from the Minister of Finance, which happens to be the Prime Minister, and the Minister of the Environment, where he was given the charge of managing the economic resources that we have. We need to hear from those two right away. And we would then be able to utilize the capital within that to dictate to Mr. Chester Cooper, what we will do as owners and investors in this economy. But we must stop believing. We must begin to believe that we were not buried by Dorian or COVID. We were planted, and this is our time to grow. We were not beaten. We were not broken. We're not beaten. So what we have to do is begin to understand that the collective intelligence of all of us is superior to the 55 individuals that sit in the House of Assembly and in the Senate.
I want to touch on something you just said that is really profound. We were not buried. We were planted. That is profound, because here's the deal. In every adversity, there's opportunity. So yes, the Bahamas has been hit hard. We were hit hard by Dorian. We were hit hard like the rest of the world by the pandemic. But in every adversity, there is an opportunity. So explain, please, what you mean that we weren't buried, we were planted. That's deep.
See, what happens is we were becoming slave to the hospitality and tourism industry. It was wiped out for us. We had converted the tourism product, and we brag about 7 million people coming to the Bahamas. The 7 million people was equivalent of 5 million people that you own a restaurant on the corner and you begin to count customers who take shortcut through your parking lot but don't stop to your restaurant. Those cruise ships were all inclusive hotels. And so if we have 7 million people who want to experience the Bahamas, we have a unique opportunity that the cruise industry is paralyzed to create an environment for them to experience us in our fullness through the hotels or bed and breakfast and VRBOs, rather than through the couple of hours stop. Let's create a product where people begin to experience the Bahamas, where people begin to rediscover the Bahamas for those who have visited. Remember now, out of the 7 million tourists or 5 million tourists or whatever number you want to use each year, 40% of them is not repeat customers. We lose 40% per year. Imagine if we use data and find out where all of these people who are still alive, who have ever passed through or came to the Bahamas, who have not come back, was, and invite them to experience the new Bahamas, a Bahamas reimagined, If we could just find them, data allows us to do this now, and invite them to tell them to, let's design your vacation. Let's redefine paradise. Let's redefine the Bahamas. We have everything we need: sun, sea, and geolocation. We have the opportunity to build an environment of a COVID-safe zone, even when COVID is declared endemic, because we can set a standard of how we build, how we interact, and how we involve them in our experience. Cultural tourism, heritage tourism, sports tourism, medical tourism, wellness tourism, educational tourism. I could go on and on. Let's do the sidebar for the education we talk again. Every single year, the embassy turns down probably thousands of individuals, maybe tens of thousands of individuals around the world who's trying to go to the US for education. We have the digital infrastructure to embrace educational tourism, where you can now can attend university digitally. You just have to have sufficient students, 40 individuals per class or whatever. They come to the Bahamas. We don't have the requirements and we can move to also protect our citizenship by addressing that lie we are doing with number 7. Another thing, we're gonna have immigration conversation. You're not gonna have immigration. You can have a lot of conversation. So what happens is we move to protect citizenship. So we can invite 100,000 people, 200,000 people. We can actually fix immigration to such a point that you don't need a visa. Just drop into the Bahamas, because we'll have it where you have to live somewhere, do all these different things. But what happens is those tens of thousands of individuals that want to extend education, guess what? If you put them on Grand Bahama, you just created a university town. They can attend any university in the Bahamas or anywhere in the world, because we have the digital infrastructure to accommodate them in classrooms and housing and shopping and whatever else. The United States don't want them there because they are scared that they may use education, become economic refugees, and lay claim to citizenship through various different methods that we don't have here in the Bahamas. So they could come here. They could even have their children, and we could, when they get ready and we find that they're here violating the terms of their stay, we can invite them to live on our brand new Bahamas Air jets. And so we have the opportunity to do a host of different things, but it requires ownership of the Bahamian people. When you want a mortgage in the Bahamas, all you have to do is find, if you need a $300,000 house, right? You only need to find, what is that? 100 people. That's 100 people who wants to buy into your mortgage, and where their certain return is, and it's a combination of VIBOs, whatever, for income properties. We can talk about that, but I'm simply saying is we could build and give away houses to Bahamians on Grand Bahama. We have the crown land, we have the resources, we have everything that's needed just by digitizing and tokenization of real estate and various different aspects of this. It's a piece of cake. In fact, if you go to my pages within the next 2 days, you'll see me talking about and writing. I'll be doing some writing on beginning the process for us to talk on this whole real estate for nothing, not for nothing, but for your involvement in developing the economy, because the mortgage program requires your involvement in the economy, because your home actually acts as a stimulus and a multiplier effect for the economy.
Okay.
Now,
stick a pin, because my producer playing the music, so he's trying to tell me something. Time to take a break. So stick a pin in that thought. We will pick up on that on the other side of this break. But before we go to a break, I have to tell you guys, especially you football fans out there, rep your team this Super Bowl Sunday. Real fans only. Have your DQ Dairy Queen cake and eat it too. Logo cake orders must be placed 24 to 48 hours in advance. So definitely check out one of your DQ locations to get your logo cake. Show them you are a real fan this Super Bowl. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors. You're listening to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for rims, tints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, True Form, Western, Lux, Fuel, Track Life, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blessed love.
And we are back. Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm in your company. Such a pleasure to be here as always. And today we're talking to C. Alan Johnson. We're talking about what is it going to take? Lord knows, Grand Bahama can't catch a break, man. What is it going to take to get Grand Bahama back on its feet? Our telephone lines to call, because I know you all in there, Grand Bahama, listening. So y'all need to pick up the phone. The telephone numbers to call 326-0271, 326-0271, or 326-0272, 326-0272. And you can also send us a message on WhatsApp, and that number is 824-9952, 824-9952. Now, see, Alan, I had to sort of stop you in the middle of your thoughts, so go ahead and pick up where you left off.
Yeah, when you go back on education, somebody interfere with me too. This is what I fight for.
Isn't she adorable? For those of you watching on Facebook, sorry, radio audience, you can't see her, but he just put in his. Now, first of all, C. Alan Johnson ain't no spring chicken, so he ain't have no business making baby at his age. But anyhow, she must see look like they must see look like their mom because they dead cute.
There you go.
So C. Alan has his beautiful kids with him who have
they've invaded my room. They go back to the room right now.
You know what this reminds me of? Some years ago, this reminds me of that gentleman. I can't remember which. Bye, babies. I can't remember which station he was on, but this gentleman was in the middle of a dead serious interview. Right?
Come for your sister.
I think it was on CNN. And then the door opens, and this little kid comes. I mean, and the kid came in, and the kid was like so happy that they actually made it into the room, and they came walking up, and he's there trying to, just keep a straight face and push the child out of the way, and then the baby comes in with the stroller. And then finally, the mother came in trying to pull them out. It was hilarious.
Put on the bed for me.
You did a good thing by just bringing them on and saying, okay, let's get this over with, because otherwise they was going to torment you. Okay, so let's get back to the point that you were making.
We're talking about data and education. This is where education is very important, that we must be educated on what our economy is. First of all, I'm coming back to education, but let's go right back to the point. What does it take for Grand Bahama? It takes leadership to actually begin to tell the truth and lay out a roadmap for the development and economic recovery of Grand Bahama and its twin city, Abaco. Not the talk, we want thought. And so essentially, we must begin to make demand, even if you're not on Grand Bahama, you must begin to make demand on the Minister for Grand Bahama to bring forth clear cognitive ideas and totally ignore the Port Authority because they don't exist. If you want the truth, we're gonna ask for the data because you can't develop Grand Bahama without the McKinsey report, all of these various different reports that we have developed, the Tech Hub report, all of these information, because we must know the negatives that we must overcome to be able to build back better, stronger together. And so the problem is that we've had them hiding information and not telling us the truth. And so we have to begin to not allow them to speak to us via the media soundbite, to bring themselves into the public and allow themselves to be questioned and engaged. Not where they come to town hall meetings and they talk for an hour and they said, one question, Seattle, one question. We got 2 minutes. No, we want to be engaging. Nothing for us without us. And the reason I say for all Bahamians, if you're in New Providence and you want a lower cost of living, you want to have a 2,000 square foot self-funding home on Grand Bahama for $250,000, first rate, infrastructure superior, Grand Bahama is the place. You could barely buy land there. So if you want to raise a family and build a better family, Grand Bahama is the place. But you must also, because you live on New Providence, Freeport, and Grand Bahama whole is still in the Bahamas and part of the Bahamas. And so stop allowing them to say this is Grand Bahamian's problem. This is a Bahamas problem. What happened in Mayaguana, what is happening and not happening in Mayaguana, Long Island, Crooked Islands, Cat Island, Abaco, Eleuthera, whatever, is all our problem. And so we must now demand the Minister for Grand Bahama and the MPs, all 5 of the MPs, the 3 FNMs, especially now that we have Mr. Michael Pintard, the leader of government in waiting, one of the people in government in waiting, the official government in waiting. We don't need critique of what the PLP didn't do. We need conversation of what is possible. We need legislation to be introduced that is necessary for these changes we are advocating. We don't need no more talk. We need thought. Because as we begin to move economically, I believe the period of transition for independent representation, I'm not talking about independent people, I'm talking about independent thought leaders, whether it be independent people or third parties or the regular political parties. Because it's time for us to choose competence as opposed to the mediocrity they send us with the labels and the colored shirts. And I believe that we are there now, and the world has opened itself up, the pebble. We are planted, we are bursting through. And the economic opportunities for access to finance, access for information, everything is right here. We have not because we have demanded not. Knock and the door shall be open. We must practice these principles rather than keep repeating them as some sort of religious rhetoric.
You don't get
what
you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And what you're saying to me as a populist.
And so essentially, let's talk and put all the cards and all the information on the table. Truth and reconciliation. You got us. Shame on us. Shame on you. Next time, it'll be shame on us. Yeah. And so we can move. And so essentially, now coming back to what Dada does in relation to what he said for education, this is very important because we have a generation of people who have been devastated educationally. And we have had the level of incompetence for the last 2 years of COVID I have not seen anywhere else. Maybe because I'm immersed in this pool, it's more personal to me. And we are going to create decades of catastrophe just equal to the drug trades and everything else we had in this country if we don't fix education. The beauty is technology and data allows us to happen. Here's what happens. You take the 6th grader and we give them a test to find out where they are. This is where grades almost become irrelevant except for socialization. This is what is called real hybrid. Because what you do is you have an adapt type of system where you identify the 6th grader, and guess what? You may have a 6th grader who they just moved because 2 years of social engineering, just move them up, but they may still be at the 4th grade level. It doesn't matter. Let them stay there socially. But technology and hybrid as well as digitization and in-person training will have the computer identify exactly how they are. And the beauty is those 100,000 students can be taught individually by the computer with assistance of the teacher. Here's what happens. For the guy that's in the 6th grade but is at the 4th grade level, the computer with artificial intelligence identify the level that person is at and what is necessary to bring them up to the speed they have. So in essence, let's say we have a 2-year period. So that 2-year period, because he's 2 years behind, We must use that 2-year period in technology to bring them, keep them socialized, but use technology to teach him individually and move him up so that in 2 years, he would have made up those previous 2 years and the 2 years that he needs. And so what happens is the computer acts as a tutor. It identifies it. The teacher is aware of this, of a strength. And because of technology and this thing where we keep us captive in this ICT environment where BTC Alive and Cable Bahamas hovers as captive consumers may have to die for the sake of our country. And so for people who believe in 5G, 5G is not about cellular. It's almost like, just like you say, the food store is not about bread. It's one item in the store. Okay. And that's what 5G is. So what I'm simply saying is, once we identify, we will understand, we will also test teachers to find out where their strength in delivery is. The beauty about teaching, right? After about 3 or 4 math teachers teach on the 4th grade level, and we must develop a 21st century syllabus, and we digitize that. And the teacher does, anytime a student want to learn something, they can go back. Every single day, we have a teacher trying to repeat the same thing. Why? We can capture it as and we can combine with places like Khan Academy and other people and build a first-class hybrid education system. But not only that, for those individuals that have finished school, whether they want to learn to read, whether they want to learn to write, or they want to reskill themselves, we can identify the skills of the 21st century that's needed in the next few years, solve problems that is yet to be even discovered. And we can actually begin to upskill or cross-skill individuals for whatever they lack, utilizing educators that we have here, and because we prepare them to teach us, and when they get it right, they can teach the world. But we can insert education syllabus and whatever we miss, utilize technology into the system. We have 100,000 students and 3,000 or 4,000 teachers. We can do this. Because technology removes the burden of a teacher trying to spend 2 minutes with every student in 1 hour.
All right, let's take a break. Not a physical break, but a break. Just so I can say that for those of you who have tuned in late, you're listening to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm in your company. My guest today is C. Alan Johnson. We're talking about what it's going to take to get Grand Bahama back on its feet. And I want to say a big thanks to the sponsor of this segment, which is Tiki Bikini Hut on Junkanoo Beach. Go out and check them out for delicious food, great atmosphere, and a family-friendly, safe environment. Tiki Bikini Hut on Junkanoo Beach. So, C. Alan, we only have, about 16 minutes left in the show, if that much, because we got to take at least a minute in between this and the next program. So let's say 15 minutes left in the show. Okay, so you've been saying a lot of stuff in this last hour and 45 minutes. You've been covering a lot of ground, and a lot of it sounds really, really good. But I know there are some out there, particularly technocrats, who are saying, see, Alan always talking mess because he know that this is harder to do than it sounds, because you're making it sound like it's so simple. How do you respond to that? How it really speaking? Realistically now.
Tell them publicly stated.
Huh?
Tell them to publicly state it. Don't whisper to themselves. What I'm simply saying is the beauty about everything what I said, right? You only have to prove me wrong once, and then you can start coming back and say, remember, even when I'm right again, you know what you can say? Remember the time you was wrong? And I'm simply saying is, I want more so for the leadership. I want someone in education, to what I just explained, to say it can be done.
But realistically speaking, knowing what we are facing in this nation, knowing what exists in Grand Bahama and what does not exist in Grand Bahama, knowing the problems that we have as it relates to individuals sitting in positions that they can influence to cause a system not to work. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Right, but that's what technology fixes that. See, what I'm saying, this is why they want you not to believe me, because technology don't care of your political affiliation. Technology will call you out because it will not allow you to hide that document. It will not allow you to delay that document. It will not allow you to disprove anything.
Things going missing in the Prime Minister office, the office of the Prime Minister. Things going.
That's another story.
That's the highest office. That's the highest office in the land.
I don't know yet how a copy of an original document, the copy went missing, not the original document. Okay, that file that went missing, it was not about removing the copies, because nothing that goes to that office was an original document. However, the notes in the column was who made the phone calls, who said this, the notes they made in the column. That's why that file disappeared. Not every file that was disappeared or that office is in original format somewhere.
But here's
however
an original format somewhere. So how come they ain't pulling that up? Anyhow, we digress.
There
That's
you go.
That's another show.
Listen to me.
But my point is this:
most of our governance is about intellectual, they call it linguistic contortionism, not even gymnastics.
But my point is, if that kind of alleged skullduggery is going on in the highest office in the land, what hope is there for the rest of the system in this country?
Because this is why we must demand the new system. The first thing we have to demand is this. The most important thing for us is not new system, it's economic empowerment that was been promised to us almost 49 years ago to independence. That has been delayed. Okay, that's where the injustice is, because when you look at the billions of dollars that is part of this country, listen to me, man. When our GDP, when we had 50,000 people and our GDP we had owned was $300 million, we owned the land, we owned everything. Now we got a $16 billion GDP and 250,000 adults. We ain't own no land, we ain't own no business, we don't own no hotels, we don't own anything. How is it that your economy could have grown thousands of percent, but you have been reduced by the same percentage? This is an opportunity of a global economic shift, and I think 52 talk about it. The technocrats, these facade of technocrats, everybody a technocrat in a technocrat, some of these are titles, okay? So you could call an idiot doctor all you want, he's still an idiot with a title. So what happens is, we have systems in this place that serves its purpose of oppression and omission and whatever. The paper documents can be disappeared. This garbage, and I hear people talk about freedom of information, right? How do you have freedom of information through decades of paper documents? In fact, 90% of the documents on Grand Bahama was destroyed in Dorian. Why? Because they were paper. You go in the Ministry of Housing, you go into social services, you go into education, you go anywhere. This is the part they're not telling us. So if these information has been destroyed, why you think the Ministry of Education knocking door to door? Hello, do you have a student in here? Really? I want people to stop and think about that.
Yeah.
You got 100,000 students in your school. You don't know where they are, but you don't have their names. You got to knock on doors to find students. They said this on the news. You really? I thought you'd have a list of people that say, Georgie ain't showed up, whatever. They have teachers. They're trying to strip information from Abaco and whatever. This is where people have disappeared in the storm. All the teachers them know is that these students are nowhere. They don't know where they are, because we have no central database in Ministry of Education, and I challenge them to call me out on that. And the debate to call me out on it, present it. Because the news tells you right there. See, this is what I'm saying to you. We have spent billions of dollars on technology in this country, and we had National Insurance couldn't give you a paperless document. They couldn't give you a fillable form online. You had to go find a form, download it, take a picture, scan it, send it to them, and all. Really?
So what needs to happen for all of this to happen? I know what you're saying. Make our
leadership
accountable.
Demand leadership, but not the leadership from the top. We need leadership from the bottom up, not from the top down.
And what
does
that mean exactly?
What I'm saying is we need community leadership. We need leadership within our communities. We need Grand Bahamians to start with, who are well familiar with this ecosystem and the corruption, to be removed from the fear of oppression, because this is a company island now. It used to be a company town, a company city. This is a company island where you have individuals.
We just recently did a show on local government, the challenges with local government. What role does local government, if it's operating properly, play in what you're describing right now?
Keyword, the local government we spoke of, the local government we needed don't exist in the Bahamas. Let me ask you a question, right? If you take an apple and dressed it up in an orange peel, would it be an orange?
No.
Local government in the Bahamas reminds me of my daughters, right? The ones I have now and the ones that was older. My older daughters, you know what? You know they could have wore whatever they wanted to wear as long as I bought it. They could drink whatever they want as long as it's water. They could stay out as late as they want, just as long as they was home by 7. That's local government. See, that's listen to me. We need a form of municipal governments where autonomy exists, where we cooperate as a state, where we have rules and charter. This thing what they had yesterday in the Senate and other places, this is expansion of centralization of power. This is not about local government. I'll give you permission to tax these different things. No, what we need is an examination independent of modifying broken systems and say this is a system of governance that is good for us in the 21st century. But we can begin to achieve this by killing our dependence on central government. As long as they keep us as intellectual and fiscal dependence on them, they will control this massaging of where they want us to go.
Does what you're describing require a systematic change from our whole process of government? And in other words, do we need to look at removing ourselves from what we know to be
believe it or not, right? The Westminster system is an open government system. The Westminster system is about men and women of honor. They don't have no constitution. They don't have, see, it's amazing. I tell people all the time, when you need to pass anti-corruption laws, freedom of information laws, transparency laws, integrity laws to keep your leaders in place, you got a problem with your leadership. See, so what I'm simply saying is that Westminster system is an open model that we could fix whatever the way we want. We keep lying about being a Westminster system when we are nothing more than a knockoff, a hybrid, or something of that sort. So, but we have never taught civics in the Bahamas. We've never taught governance in the Bahamas. We've never taught financial literacy. That's purposeful. The worst thing you want, education, real education, makes you unfit to be a slave. And that's why they don't want real education. That's why they don't give you these things. And so financial education is one of the most powerful tools. Do you know? We talk about the Bahamas being dirty. We talk about all these different things. Education doesn't choose empowerment. However, empowerment chooses education. An empowered person will demand better housing, will demand better roads, will demand better everything. That's why they keep telling you, work hard, get education and work hard, and you're going to be rich and famous. Listen to me. If hard work made wealth, every doggone slave would have been a billionaire.
Wow.
Don't fall for the trick. Don't fall for the massaging of messaging. You must work smart, not hard. And the 21st century provides us for the tool for the evolution of the Bahamas like we've never seen. We could make, and you and I can talk about this, we could guarantee on Grand Bahama alone 20,000 millionaire in 5 years. Minister of Education, Minister of Finance, Minister of Investments, and Minister of Housing and Minister of Environment get together and give a Clint Watson, do a press release, say I'm crazy, and then meet me on the battlefield. Trey Ramming, whisper that into the Prime Minister's ear, and let him know I come in. No, I ain't coming. Tell him I reach.
See, Alan, you are always guaranteed to give us a good conversation. So I need you to let's bring this all home now because we're running out of time. So give us your final thoughts on this. Boy, I don't know. I feel for the people of Grand Bahama because you really have to for so long.
To interrupt you. You should feel for the people of the Bahamas.
Well, yeah.
Let me tell you why. In 2007, go back to the speech by Hubert Alexander Ingram. Hubert Alexander Ingram said on the campaign trail, without Grand Bahama, there will not be any economic recovery of the Bahamian economy. That's, when we was crashing for 2007-8 when the global economy crashed. Go back now to 2012. Perry Glasgow Christie says, there can be no economic recovery without Grand Bahama playing a central role. 2017, Hubert Alexander Minnis said, there can be no economic recovery of the Bahamas without Grand Bahama. He said it also for part of the Economic Recovery Committee. Mr. Brave Davis, he said, Grand Bahama and Abaco, no economic recovery of the Bahamas. And if there can be no economic recovery of the Bahamas, then why isn't Grand Bahama and by extension Abaco front and central in the conversation of its rebirth, revitalization, its reimagination? Because they want to give you trinkets about the blame game, about what this one did and that one did. I'm not surprised about the disaster recovery. They didn't exist except in the mind of those they appointed and those who took.
I don't even know if it existed there. That's another show. Right.
But as I'm saying to you, so what I'm saying to you is that we as Grand Bahamians, the word is Bahamian, right. We are all grand, we all Bahamians. Some of us live on an island called Grand Bahama, must come together and demand answers, primarily from the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance. No talking to anyone else. We indirectly, by voting for these other people, put you there as chief driver of policy. Then we must talk, and you're also in charge of finance. We must talk to investments, Ministry of Housing, because that's very important for the security of Bahamians. And then we must talk to the Ministry of Social Services and demand an economic, a stopgap measure for a social safety net, which we're going to use. And the reason why we have to speak to the Minister of the Environment, who answers to the Prime Minister, is that is where part of the money is. Billions of dollars is in Ministry of Tourism sitting in their depositories as data, and billions of dollars in resources that we don't need to sell anything. I just told you how we could take 50,000 acres and raise $15 billion to reboot and restart this economy. People want in the Bahamas. We've proven it by the numbers every single year, and we can prove it by redefining our brand and reclaiming our superiority in the hospitality industry. And for those of you who say tourism is not where it is, I want you to know hospitality is the 10th largest money earner industry in the world. And if you say let's diversify away from tourism, tell me which of the other 9 we can go into. We have barely touched hospitality. We have barely touched tourism. We have sat around the fringes, and people are now eating our lunch. Let's rethink, redefine, and reimagine Grand Bahama, reimagine the Bahamas, and claim ownership of the sovereign land that God has given us and the economic empowerment that our previous leadership leading up to independence said we would have by now.
See, Alan Johnson, always a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking forward, maybe a weekly thing or every other week, to be with you.
Yeah, let's talk about it. That's because whenever you and I have these conversations, next thing you know, you start seeing these videos from clips from show. I'm like, okay, people listening. Yep. So let's make it happen. I'll call you later today, and then we can talk about what we can do. All right.
Thank you so much for having me once again, and I'm proud to have you back on the radio.
Thank you, man. Thanks so much for being here today. Listen, guys, we are out of time. That's our show for today. Tomorrow is a Wellness Wednesday show. So that means that we're going to be talking about an issue that is vital to your health. Make sure you tune in. Do not miss tomorrow's show. That's going to do it. Thanks to all of our sponsors for making today's show possible, and all of you who called in or sent a Facebook message or simply listened. We appreciate you here at Global 99.5 FM. I'm Michelle Malcolm. Have a good afternoon, and I will see you guys tomorrow.
Global 99.5 FM reminds our listeners that the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and guests and not necessarily the opinions of the owners of Global Communications Network and the operators of this radio station.
This is 99.5 Global.